This segment is sponsored by Dennis Goins of DennisGoins.com. I'm Lady Charmaine, and financial advisor Dennis Goins is back with us today to discuss how we should be careful about cashing out. How you doing, Dennis?
I'm doing fine, Lady Charmaine. How are you?
Good. Now, this is a really good topic because, many people have 401ks and 403bs. And when you talk about cashing out, and especially younger people feel they can cash out a little earlier because they can replace the money. So I'm glad you're here today to talk about the pros and cons of cashing out early. So let's talk about that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, one of the things that we have to be careful about, since the recession in 2008, Americans have been keeping their jobs longer. In 2012, for example, the average tenure for a U.S. worker was 4.6 years, up from 3.7 years in 2002. So even though the tenure is increasing, there is a good chance that people will be moving on to a new job in the not-too-distant future. And one of the key things about moving to a job is what is going to happen to the employer-paid retirement plans like 401ks and 403bs. And typically, when you leave your employment or job for whatever reason, you have four options as far as dealing with your retirement plan. You can leave it with the former employer plan if they allow it, and that's usually indicated by the amount that's in the fund. Or you can roll the fund over to your new employer's plan if your new employer plan has a retirement and allows a rollover. Or three, you can roll it over into your own individual retirement account, your own IRA. And of course, the fourth one is you can take all or part of the funds as a cash distribution, and that's the key thing that we want to really focus on today: cashing out, taking that money out when you leave. One of the key things about employer-paid retirement fund is the tax deferred savings that you have, and that's basically very important when you look at the retirement system. And consider if you took that cash out, and this is very critical. Mm-hmm. If you take the cash out and have the employer to send the money directly to you, there's a 20% withholding on that money. So if you wanted to take $10,000 out of your 401k, you're only going to receive $8,000, and 20% of that is withheld and forward to the IRS. And that can be very problematic because even though the quick infusion of cash is appealing, and things happen, and everybody's going through something, but there's a more efficient way that I've found that you can utilize that. And instead of taking that money out of directly from the employer plan on a cash distribution, you can do a rollover into your own individual IRA. So if you had the $10,000, you roll the $10,000 into your own individual IRA, then take the money out. There's no 20% withholding. So that little simple concept right there avoids that 20% withholding, which is taxable to you. So that's very, very, very important when you look at that. And also, if you took that 20% withholding, whether it be out of your IRA or your employer plan, and if there is a 10% early withdrawal penalty that could apply, and that there are some few exceptions to that, and that's if you are obviously disabled, deaf, or if it's a retirement plan, an employer retirement plan. If you take it out of the employer retirement plan, if you're 55 or over, then the 10% penalty is not applicable, but on the IRA it is applicable. So that's some of the key concepts that I find a lot of people, when they retire, they need the money for whatever reason, but they take the money directly from the employer plan instead of rolling it over to the IRA and taking the money out that way.
Because we want to have that money in our hand.
Well, I mean, like I said, things happen. I mean, and everybody goes through something, and you need that cash to kind of, for example, if you lose your job unexpectedly, that retirement plan could be a source of funding and paying your family expenses. Mm-hmm. But instead of taking it as a cash distribution, roll it over into your own IRA, then take the money out. At least you avoid that 20% withholding. Now, you still may have to be applicable to that 10% withholding penalty. And of course, everything's taxable that you take out, but at least you avoid that 20% withholding, and that's important. And one of the things you talked about is is the retirement is younger folks. And a lot of younger folks, when you look at it, there was an article in Money Magazine back in 2013 that showed that a person that's age 30 that cashes out their $16,000 401k, they're losing about $500 in monthly retirement income because that money keeps accumulating. It keeps growing. It keeps accumulating wealth because of the tax deferral in there. And so if you left that money in there and let it continually accumulate, that's a key source of retirement income for you. And even if it doesn't have to be $16,000, it could be $4,000 or $5,000, and people cash that out, particularly if they're young and they want to spend it. But if they left it in there and just rolled it over into your own IRA and let it accumulate, that really can be a key source of accumulating wealth.
So, okay, question for you. When you say preserving tax-deferred savings, I was reading about that, and I know a lot of people might be like myself, need more understanding regarding that.
Okay, consider your 401k or your retirement plan or IRA, consider that into a little cup or jar. Mm-hmm. And as long as it stays in that cup or jar, you don't have to pay taxes on it. So if you have 5,000, 10,000, whatever in that 401k, and it keeps accumulating and growing, what we call compounding, you don't have to pay taxes on that money while it's compounding. That's what we call tax-deferred growth. Once you pull that money out of that glass, that's when it's taxable. So, for example, if you leave your employment and leave the money in the 401k and you roll it over from one glass to another glass, what we call a direct transfer, that's not a taxable event. But if you take money out of that glass into your own pockets, per se, then you have to pay taxes on all that money plus a 10% penalty if you're not 59 and a half. So that's a lot of young folks consider, well, it's only $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000, mm-hmm. but that money can accumulate and grow. And when they're 67 years old, retirement age, hey, they've got money that they've never really missed. Instead of just simplifying to say, okay, just give me my money. Well, just roll it over to your IRA and just let that money keep growing for you and accumulating. That's a key source of that. And wanted to just kind of finalize and talk about the withdrawal rules. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you take a distribution from your 401k or 403b, it is taxed as ordinary income. And any early withdrawals taken out prior to 59 and a half would be subject to the 10% penalty. Of course, if you're exception of death, disability, or attainment of age 55, if you're in a retirement plan at age 55 and you take money out of that retirement plan as a distribution, you do not have to pay the 10% penalty. But it is 10% penalty is applied if you're 59 and a half coming out of an IRA. And that's ways that you can avoid that. And, separation from employment can be a very stressful event. But it might offer you an opportunity to take control of any assets that your former employer has given you by using some of these tax-deferred methods that we talk about. And it's very critical, and we see a lot of that out there in the market today. People are saying, okay, I need the money to pay my rent, et cetera, et cetera. And that's true, but roll it over to an IRA and then take it out. At least you avoid the 20% withholding, which is going to be taxed. And I find that's just a very simple fact that you can avoid as far as be careful about cashing out.
Well, Mr. Goins, you always give such great information. And if people wanted to talk to you more about this and get some more details, where can they find you?
They can find me on my website, and I'm getting a lot of responses from these radio segments. People are basically tapping into the website and emailing me. My website is www.dennisgoins.com. And my email address is dennis@dennisgoins.com. And a lot of people are asking a lot of these questions from some of these segments that we talked about, and but that's how they can contact me. And also they can look me up in LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn at Dennis Goins and Associates, and also Facebook, my Facebook page, Dennis Goins and Associates.
I just want to thank you so much because you always give very valuable information. And as I get older, because when you're younger, you don't look into all of this. But as I get older, I realize how important this information is. And like we were talking about retirement last week, filing and suspending. That was wonderful. This week, be careful about cashing out. So I just want to say thank you so much for giving us this great information.
Yeah, and again, as I mentioned last week, you don't see this information on a billboard, and but obviously the filing suspend was something that, frankly, Social Security didn't want you to know about, and of course, this 20% withholding thing on this cashing out is very critical, and a lot of mistakes are happening out there today. But I appreciate you for providing me with this opportunity, and yes, Lady Charmaine, you are a whole younger, so you don't have to worry about this for a while.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. If you would like to learn more about financial investments, contact Dennis Goins at dennisgoins.com.